You do take some of the seats at the front. Start to fill up from the front. Welcome. Yes, you can grab one of these places we've already laid out, and otherwise you can grab some more out behind. But yeah, do start to fill up from the front. Yeah, welcome. So yeah, you can take some of these places right out the front. And otherwise, what I want to do is just generally bring. Let's see how many more people come into the room actually first. But yeah, you take some places at the front, and we'll put a few more places out behind, and then we might bring the chairs in a little bit, just so that we're all a bit more together. So there's a couple of places just here at the front, so you can just take those if you're down. There you go. All this available. So, you get from yeah. Let's actually just leave those spaces next to the Okay, excellent. So let's just actually, if you're on the chairs at the back, because there's a bit of a gap, if you all just move all of the chairs forward towards me by like a metre. Yeah. Or wait till everyone else is down. Actually, it's actually quite a full room, so ignore what I just said. Sthiramanas and I can heckle each other and give each other contradictory practical information. Okay, so we'll start by saluting the shrine, so we can stand and salute the shrine for all the response if you'd like. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Namah. Namo Namah. Om. Okay, great. So yes, very warm welcome from me. My name's Sthiramanas. We're in here on Dominite. Sthiramanas and I are doing this sort of loose 5-part drop-in series on called the Sublime Ideal. So Sthiramanas has spoken for the last couple of weeks about this Sublime Ideal, which is a way of talking about Mahayana Buddhism. So Mahayana being the sort of the sort of the main development that happened in the Buddhist tradition after its from the early Buddhism that sort of grew up and was sustained and passed down from the Buddha, developing over time, over the centuries, to sort of through how things are remembered, through how they're communicated, through how traditions sort of build up, through how how we try and keep things sort of fresh for the people who are actually alive, the culture that it's within. So that's always going on, and at some point there was a sort of a major development in which the kind of how Buddhism appears changed quite a lot, this was starting to happen from within a few hundred years of the Buddha's life. And so Kusala was talking in the first week. She was talking about the fact that this development, the Mahayana, tended to take on larger and more mythical proportions. So rather than the Buddhist stories being simply meeting the Buddha in a forest grove and hearing him teach to people of all different backgrounds, kings, merchants, the poor and outcast, whatever it is, these sort of simple human stories, we start to meet the Buddha in a kind of cosmic assembly of like hundreds of thousands of highly developed beings, and sort of the presence of the Buddha being sort of matched with great sort of almost like cosmic light shows which communicates something of the inner quality of the Buddha's attainment and what the Buddhist tradition is pointing towards. And she was also last week in particular talking about another way in which the Mahayana tradition presents Buddhism as something huge and limitless, is in the way that it talks about the ideal. And this is particularly in relation to something called the Bodhisattva ideal. So the ideal of the Mahayana is the Bodhisattva. So the Bodhisattva means something like enlightenment being, or one who is sort of set upon enlightenment. But really what it sort of connotes, what's kind of wrapped up in that, is a sense that our practice, and the practice of the Bodhisattva, is a practice that is very much happening for other people. So it's not just me trying to attain enlightenment for myself and the freedom from suffering and so on that will come with that. We're not separating that out at all from what we can do for others, from helping other people to be free in a similar sort of way. Actually, all of this, the huge mythic sort of scale of what enlightenment is, and this strongly altruistic element, they were all there from Buddhism at the start. As the tradition develops, as anything develops, it tends to sort of stagnate a bit in the way that ordinary humans pass it on to one another, and something of the inequality can get a bit lost. So the Mahayana is sort of just making more explicit something that's implicit within the tradition, and so we get this real emphasis on something more visionary, or presented in a more visionary fashion, and something with a very, very clear altruistic aspect that's made central, which seems to suggest that somewhere along the way, as Buddhism was being communicated, something of those things were lost. It developed into something slightly more focused on one's own individual practice, and it didn't have that kind of limitless quality. So the Mahayana is really emphasizing that. And so when we meet Mahayana texts, they'll feel very different to it when we hear some of the very early Buddhist teachings. Anyway, we'll continue more about that, and I want to talk about a bit more about how one might become a bodhisattva, and the devotional aspect of that. And those two things are very related. So we'll also do a sevenfold puja as part of the evening. So I'm going to talk about the sevenfold puja, which is to give the game away, one of the main practices for becoming a bodhisattva. And I'll kind of talk us through a bit about how that functions, and a little bit about ritual, and then we'll just do it. We'll get a sense of what that is. So I'll speak a little bit less tonight, and in the second half we'll also do a ritual together, and I'll say more about that before we do it. But before that, we'll do some meditation. So, in line with this theme of the sublime ideal, in line with this sort of altruistic element, we'll be emphasising that by practicing the Metabhavana. Of course, Metabhavana taught by the Buddha, but already from the early tradition, we're talking about all beings, and we're bringing to mind all beings, cultivating a heart that can encompass all of life. Is anybody unfamiliar with the Metabhavana practice or hasn't done the Metabhavana practice before? Just a quick show of hands, just so I know how much to lead it. Yeah, okay, a few of you. Yeah, great. So I won't be able to say very much. If you want to learn the practice sort of a bit more fully, then I'd say come on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night to kind of get the full sort of lead through of it. But basically, what we're doing is we're becoming aware of our sort of inner emotional state, and bringing to mind different people, and seeing if we can wish them well. So we're doing that in contact with how we're actually feeling right now. So we're really trying to tune into that, and then we'll bring someone to mind, notice what effect that has, and then see if we can wish them well. So I'll say at each stage who we're bringing to mind, and I'll mention a few phrases that you could use, that you could say to yourself imaginatively to conjure that. Yeah. Okay. So I'll lead us into meditation. So setting yourself up so that you can sit comfortably and also nice and upright. And then trusting all of the weight of your body onto the seat, allowing your weight to drop down through the base of your spine. As you're letting go of the weight of your body, a sense of letting go of any thoughts that are preoccupying you, putting your day down as well. And a sense of uplift as well. So the spine rising up through the crown of the head poised above the shoulders, balanced. Spreading out your awareness to fill the whole of your body, experiencing the whole of the body, sat here. experiencing the body as a whole, but within that, a particular area of focus is at the heart center. So not the physical heart, but the point right at the center of your chest within the body. Seeing if you can focus your awareness there, noticing whatever your experience is like in that area. Bringing an attitude of patient, curious awareness of however you are right now. Not trying to change anything. The metta bhavana. So in the first stage, we're cultivating metta, loving kindness for ourselves. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be free from suffering, may I make progress. Now bringing to mind a good friend. As vivid a sense as you can of their presence, noticing the effect that has in your experience, and then wishing them well. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering, may you make progress. Again, returning to an awareness of the body and the heart center, whatever's going on. And now bringing to mind a neutral person, someone you don't feel strongly about, positively or negatively. And wishing them well. bringing to mind an enemy or a person you find difficult. And we're acknowledging the fact that we have difficulty with this person, but recognizing that just like us, they too want to be happy, not suffer. So wishing them well. In the final stage, bringing together all four, yourself, the friend, the neutral person, the enemy. Seeing if you can equalize your well-wishing towards all four. And from there, expanding outwards to include more and more living beings. May all living beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings make progress. letting go of making any effort to bring anyone to mind or wish them well, but just sitting with a broad awareness for a moment longer. So we get a little taste of the Bodhisattva ideal when we try and practice, particularly this last stage of the Metta Bhavana, to try and to wish all beings what we're wishing for them. When we say may all beings make progress, really what we mean doing this in a Buddhist context, by progress, really we mean the fullness of progress. We wish all beings to be liberated in their mind, in the totality of their experience being one of freedom, of boundless creativity and qualities. And in order to really wish that for others, especially in order to help others genuinely to move towards that, then we're going to need to do that ourselves. So that's the Bodhisattva ideal, that we're trying to attain enlightenment. We're trying to sort of overcome the greatest sort of possible obstacles in our mind, achieve this highest goal for the greatest good, for all sentient life in this universe and other universes, and sort of without end. So it's a big ideal, and Kusala was talking last week about how in a way one can hear that ideal, or so I think I might have a similar experience of both thinking, wow, that's brilliant. That is the sort of the heroic ideal taken to its fullest conclusion, but also it seems impossible. It's so huge. So the Bodhisattva ideal is the ideal of trying to live that out to whatever extent we can, but as far as we can. And so how would we possibly get to that? How would we become a bodhisattva in that sense and practice as a bodhisattva in that sense to make our life a life of that kind of goal? So the tradition says the way that we become a bodhisattva is the arising of the bodhicitta. So bodhicitta utpada means something like arising of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is sometimes translated as something like will to enlightenment. So the sort of the will, the sort of force or the direction of one's being towards this grand goal that we've just talked about. I'm going to read out a quote that Kusala read out last week from Bhante Sangharakshita, our teacher, the founder of our order, who's saying that the bodhicitta represents the manifestation, even the eruption within us, of something transcendental. The emergence within our ordinary experience of something of a totally different nature. So if we're genuinely going to be able to respond to life in that way, to liberate ourselves and liberate others, we're going to need help. That's going to need something much more than our usual limited sense of who we are. So it's a way of thinking about Buddhist practice that's kind of opening up to that, welcoming in this something transcendental, welcoming up, sort of encouraging this eruption of something transcendental within us. With all of this, it's really important that in a way we're using this language sort of poetically. In a way, we're always using language poetically. We can't say that there's a particular thing called the bodhicitta. It's not the Holy Spirit. Or it's not a kind of a particular thing that we can kind of point at and pin down and define. And yet, it's a description of an experience that practitioners have had. The sense that when Buddhist practice really takes off, it's got this quality of something else erupting into the picture. And it's something transcendental, so it's something that isn't within our usual understanding of the phenomenal world. It's something that carries us beyond this sense of me being separate from all these beings that I'm wishing well. It's as though the thing that, whatever it is that comes into the picture, seems to remove the illusion that we are actually fundamentally separate. And so all of the kind of neuroses that keep our energy kind of constricted, keep us worried about ourselves and our sort of personal progress and how we're seen by other people, all of that can drop, and there's a potential kind of real release of energy. And where that energy is going to go is into all this life around us and all these other beings that we see and naturally resonate with, because we don't feel ourselves to be as separate. So that might give you a sort of sense of what the bodhicitta being something that is somehow beyond the phenomenal world in which there's me in here and world out there, and everything's kind of broken up and separate. So yeah, it's not a thing, therefore, that we can have. We can't get to the point where we get our bodhicitta and we can pin that on our backpack or whatever, or our sort of top pocket, and say I've sort of done that. It can't be a possession that we can have. If anything, it's more like the bodhicitta possesses us. There becomes a point where our practice enables us to sort of drop something of that kind of shell of an illusory sense of self, so that we can be taken over by these more positive forces in the universe, to put that in inverted commas. So it's talked about as a distinct moment. It's talked about as something, as a moment that can happen, where one's experience, the nature of one's experience, shifts completely, and I wonder if you've had a sort of some sort of inclination of this. Not to say that. I'm not saying put your hand up if the bodhicitta has arisen in you, but that we might have a sense that there's moments where it's as though we're operating with more than ourselves than we're used to. Does anyone have a sense of that? You hear stories of people doing sort of, I remember this story of somebody who saw someone had fallen onto the train tracks and a train was coming, and they just jumped onto the train tracks so as to cover them and protect them. And someone after them was saying, like, that was really heroic. What were you why did you do that? And they was their initial response was to say, I have no idea. I didn't have time to think. Something just sort of happened. It's like in those moments where we really go beyond ourselves. It's almost as though it's not us in the usual sense sort of operating. So in a way, the arising of the bodhicitta is a particular distinct moment, and it's that moment that one becomes a bodhisattva, strictly speaking. That's not to say that the path is complete. It's more like suddenly we're in contact with, we're motivated by these forces beyond us. We're sort of pulled towards enlightenment rather than just having to kind of read the texts and give it our best shot. It's like there's something else that is in the mix that's motivating us. But I think we can also think about it as just a sort of a whole approach to practice, to be gradually just trying to open ourselves up to something beyond ourselves, basically, and trying to operate more and more from that level. When the tradition of the muse, in sort of way back when people would evoke the muse at the beginning of a poem, you get the sense in the classical literature that this is something meant very, very seriously. It's not just a sort of literary device. It's a sense that one begins an epic poem or whatever it is that one's trying to communicate by calling on forces beyond us to sort of write or speak the poem through us. That if we're going to be inspired, we can't do it by ourselves. We're just opening ourselves as a vessel to something beyond us. So we can kind of start to try and practice in that way. And I'll read I think I'm going to read a bit, and actually when we're doing our Sevenfold Puja in the second half, we'll all be hearing and speaking verses from this text, the Bodhicharyavatara by Shantideva. So he's which is an 8th century Buddhist text in Indian, sort of late, sort of fully developed Indian Buddhism. Shantideva was a great practitioner and bodhisattva, and also a great poet as well. And he writes about the bodhicitta and the practice of aligning ourselves with it very, very beautifully. And one of his descriptions of the arising of the bodhicitta, he says, "As a blind man might find a jewel in heaps of rubbish, so too this bodhicitta has somehow appeared in me." This sense of like the poet finding that they've just composed this poem as the muse has sort of spoken through them. So the bodhisattva experiences that it's almost like a blind man, like somebody, a blind man at night, sort of rummaging around, accidentally just finds a great jewel that hasn't been looking for it. He's not got the faculty even to sort of be a jewel hunter or whatever. He's just stumbled upon something of enormous value, and the experience of the arising of the bodhicitta, the experience of feeling in touch with something beyond the subject-object divide, is like a great gift that we just find of a sudden. So it has this quality of fluke, of chance, of a gift. But at the same time, it's something that we can. It's not complete chance. It's something that we can be preparing ourselves for. So in a way, our practice in trying to become a bodhisattva, in trying to become one who can really live out this sort of most visionary ideal of Buddhism, the way that we can do that is just by laying all the conditions in place, doing all the right things, so that the bodhicitta might arise. So let's get into, I'd be interested to see, what do you think, based on what I've just described the bodhicitta as being, what are the conditions in your life, in your mind, in your way of operating, that you think you might need in order for that to happen? So let's just get into pairs, and we'll just speak for 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll just hear back from a few of you. What are some of the conditions that you think might be needed for that to be more likely?
being in a sort of position of like one having like need of so I think like you need to be able to understand but I think in this day and age
One more minute. Okay. So, anyone want to share? Just let's have a fairly quick fire sharing of a few ideas of what some of these conditions you think might need to be in place for the bodhicitta to arise. Yep.
I think we discussed that it's not really something that you force.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you perhaps remember or find within yourself.
Remembering. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well,
Say more about.
I think we forget
Right.
about it. So it's not a case of sort of remembering, it's forgetting the stuff that's in between us and that state.
Right. Yeah. So, in a way, it's like those moments where you're not actively trying to get yourself out of the way. Particularly when we're absorbed in something positive, it's like we forget about some of the usual barriers that are there. Yeah, between us and other people, perhaps. Yeah. Good. What else? Yeah.
We're talking about like moments when your default kind of way of being is no longer working and wouldn't work in that situation, and so you kind of have something underneath kind of has to come up.
Right.
Like that guy on the train.
Mm-hmm.
If he thought about it, he probably wouldn't have done it if he didn't.
Right.
Like it's not something that he had to like think about and then do. He would have been like no. So it's something that was already there that kind of came out because the default way of just thinking about it wouldn't have.
Yeah. Because the situation is called for something new. The situation is calling more more from us. So putting ourselves in situations where there's something something bold and positive that's asked from us is more likely for it to arise. Yeah, great. What else?
We talked about space, so not just like physical space, but mental space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just meditating, just that creating that sense of calmness that allows you to connect more. And we talked about being less judgmental that comes out of that.
Right.
But I think space is just so literally, physically and mentally, especially in London.
Yeah, just a sense of mental space. This is what we're the kind of mental qualities that would be coming into the picture with the arising of the bodhicitta would be vast. So any movement of any kind of expansion of the mind in a way that we go into the countryside and we sort of feel bigger, or we have a really good communication with someone and we feel less kind of constricted. Anything that's moving us in that direction will be a step along the way. Yeah, great. Maybe one more. Yeah.
We discussed kind of in terms of setting up conditions for it would be the removing of sort of unskillful environments that kind of keep you in a sort of selfish mindset. So kind of I think whether that would be if you're in a particularly sort of selfish kind of form of work or something like that kind of makes you very much think about me, myself and I, kind of removing yourself from that, so that way you can kind of, you're spending more time in a sort of selfless way of life.
Yeah, excellent. So our ethics and our conduct and what we're finding ourselves doing, whether that's going with the grain of being in line with other people and helping other people and feeling connected to others, or cutting us off and sort of trying to cheat them or whatever it is, that's going to matter. That's going to make a big difference. In a way, sort of a trick question, because it's sort of, in a way, all of the Buddhist tradition, any Buddhist practice is trying to open us up in this way. This is just one, but the arising of the bodhicitta is one way of looking at the whole of the aim of Buddhist practice. And yet, the tradition has a few particular sort of methods and approaches, and one of those is the Anuttara Puja, or the supreme worship. So it's a sequence of different it's a sort of sequence of sort of moods or sort of spiritual kind of exercises that we can move through, and we can kind of rehearse so that we can get a sense of what it would be like to move ourselves more and more in the direction of the bodhicitta. So I'll sort of try and articulate how that might work, how we might rehearse that, and kind of evoke that in some way for us, and then we'll do that together after we've had some tea. So we'll go through next door, have some tea, and do come back for the second half, and we'll see what happens.
He said, Yeah, but they're not persistent. It's just like they're doing it together. It's great as well, but then everyone's so different. So different. Everyone's completely different. It's like family or work ethics, do the same thing. It's similar family, but difficult for me to So in some ways, that really, or like in some ways, like I don't really do it really, but then other times I like doing it and I get a lot of fun from it. A lot of eventually doing it. I do this here so it's and if I just did this all the time, it's been slowly, but at first I was like, I would do this, so now it's more like, it's not really just like this, it's not really that, now I'm slowly having like a shift every time. And stuff like, yeah, like being on the tree, stuff like that really shows a lot more work. But I just couldn't do that on the tree sometimes, do that. So that's the beauty of, I think, this tree and the world. And then, you know, for instance, my family, when we drink, you know, drink some, drink like the toilet, and water, but then you can kind of, over time, find your way through it all. Yeah, I think it's a good thing to transfer. But my mum gets a lot more when she goes on the field trips. Yeah, but that's quite good. You see that trying to put in. I'm trying to have a bit of a, trying to go a bit deeper in what you do. How are you doing? You're really, really We can speak to any of the organisers, only the team I think when I went on the trip, Notre Dame, so I just met him because he was there for 7 days. 60 people, just seeing him every day. I can't get my friends from here, his friends and my family. Great reason. It doesn't look like you're saying.
Okay, so yes, as I said, we'll be doing. I'll say a little bit more in way of introduction to us performing the sevenfold puja. Maybe just a quick show of hands if you've not done a Buddhist ritual before. A few, great. Welcome. So yeah, what that should be, it should be fairly. I'll just talk about the practical bits first. So what that will be is basically it's in call and response. You're very welcome to. In fact, I'd encourage you to just join in and just see what happens. In a way, all of this is a kind of an experiment. It's like a kind of workshop for bringing the bodhicitta into being. You can engage with that as a sort of experiment without we're not going to sort of make you sign a document saying you're a Buddhist by giving it a go. But so yeah, you could repeat after me some verses in call and response. At some point, maybe Sthiramanas, would you start the Shakyamuni mantra after the worship section? Is there anyone else who could start the Shakyamuni mantra?
Okay.
Yeah? Sthiramanas is really excited to start the Shakyamuni, which is us effectively just calling the name of the Buddha, the historical Buddha, and while that's happening, we can come up and we could light a candle or some incense and offer that to the shrine. However you want to do. There's a form that involves some bowing down that some people will do, but you can just do that however you want to as well. How many people know the Heart Sutra? Okay, maybe I'll just read the Heart Sutra at one point. So there'll be one bit where when I say Heart Sutra, just don't repeat after me, and I'll just do that. And then at the very end, we'll sit in silence for a moment, and then I'll just bow, and then I'll bow and leave the room, and then that can be, and we just put our mats and cushions away, and we'll keep this room silent. So we'll end. We won't sort of break the atmosphere at the end of the ritual by me saying goodbyes and all of that. We'll just sort of end in that way. So what it is, and how does this relate to what we've just been talking about? So this is the sevenfold puja is. It's basically a series of extracts from the Bodhicharyavatara. So the Bodhicharyavatara is a much longer text, but there's particularly a section of it which just goes through this Anuttara puja, this supreme worship, which is one of the main sort of practical methods, if you like, of bringing the bodhicitta into being. So the way it works is it's basically a series of sort of moods, if you like. It's like a series of sort of spiritual events that we're enacting, and the more this is what ritual has always been. It's play acting basically. In fact, plays and theatre come out of ritual, and at their best, they've got that quality. You get a group in any live performance. You get a group of people that come in. You sort of pay attention together. Something happens, and there's a kind of transformation that happens. Our consciousness sort of transforms by attending to the same thing together, and that initially has come out of a ritual by aligning ourselves collectively with something of real value. So we sort of engage with that. We're saying words that are currently beyond us. So we're rehearsing. We might be saying things that we don't currently that don't currently seem to be true. Like we're sort of saying that we dedicate ourselves for all beings, and we sort of put aside all thoughts of ourselves and so on. And it's like that's something we might be aspiring to do. We're not saying that I've perfected that. Even the very first words of the puja talk about offering mandarava. Now, mandarava are huge golden flowers that fall from the heavens. So we're not literally saying that we're doing that, but we're kind of putting ourselves in the position of this bodhisattva, who's on someone who's on the verge of the bodhicitta arising. So it's a kind of drama that we're playing out. I used to work in theatre. I used to direct plays, and you get this sense that when we watch a play, we emotionally invest with the story, with what's going on, and we get sort of pulled into that. We feel what the protagonist feels to some extent. When I've not, I didn't used to be an actor, but I did used to do a little bit of acting, and my experience of doing that is when you're actually when you're the person saying those words, when you're the person trying to truthfully go through that situation, it's like you get that same experience that you get in watching the film, but very much intensified. It's like a much more personal experience of that. You're having to find a way to say words and mean them, and then it's almost like you just notice yourself saying something, and you're affected by it. In the same way that happens in life, doesn't it? We say something like more courageous than we're used to. We say it, and then we feel this kind of burst of like energy and courage or something. We're affected by the words that we're saying, so rather than needing to kind of come in like with actors. The tendency can be to sort of try and like fill it with colour and say something that's sort of fully expressive of emotion or something like that. And often that's not very good acting. So often what one's doing, particularly with more inexperienced actors, is just trying to get them to do less and less of that, just to say the words and be affected by the words and the situations, and then the sort of the way that affects you will be the kind of inner life that you see. So in a way, we're just trying to do exactly the same thing. We're saying words that are currently of a character of someone much more spiritually developed than us. And in doing so, we experience that. We kind of go through this drama. And that will, to some extent, change us. And we're doing that not just by ourselves, we're doing that with others. One thing that I wanted to say earlier when we were talking about the arising of the bodhicitta is that something that Bhante Sangharakshita talks about is saying that he thinks that the bodhicitta is something that's much more likely to arise in a spiritual community. It's something that's much more becoming, in a way, me becoming a bodhisattva, me being able to save all beings, is sort of, it's too much. But the prospect of banding together with others practicing similarly, and we can have a much bigger impact. The team on the winter retreat that Kusala was just talking about, collectively, will be able to have a much bigger impact than just Kusala herself, wonderful as she is. There's a sense that when we align ourselves together, we can. It's like this sort of something beyond this, something transcendental. It's more like that. That can come through much more easily. So we do the puja together in that way. And the drama that we're kind of playing through is basically one of meeting the Buddha. So the whole puja is directed towards the Buddha. The Buddha is the ideal that we're trying to move towards. Sometimes that's talked about as being like our potential, and we're bringing to mind our potential. And that is a perfectly valid way of looking at it. But you can think about it more objectively as well. If the Buddha is our potential, then it figures that that if I was to become a Buddha, then I would be a Buddha for others, if you like. So this is sort of operating in the sense that there's forces beyond us. There's literally people who have attained enlightenment, and there's a sense that there are these spiritual beings that we can be in relation to. Not needing to take that too literally, but we're sort of aligning ourselves with the embodiment of this ideal. So we're meeting this ideal. That's another way of sort of dramatizing this sort of entering into our consciousness of a new aspect of the bodhicitta. So we're meeting the Buddha. And in the context of this drama that we're rehearsing together, we prepare the ground for the Buddha. We don't just sort of say, oh, hello, nice to see you, have a sit on my sofa or whatever. Instead, we prepare like fragrant water to wash his feet. It's all sort of this is all in the language of the kind of traditional Indian customs of being a host. Still in that part of the world, people take great care over hosting people, much more than we're used to. So a sort of we're not just sort of letting him in. We're what we want to sort of serve him. We want to wash his feet. We want to lay on incredible food, the most remarkable food, like light candles and burn incense and create a really strong atmosphere. Have music, beautiful music playing. We're creating the context in which he can enter. So we're recognizing the value of the Buddha and making beautiful the space in which he's going to come. And in a way, us making offerings to the shrine is like that moment. It's like the moment we're calling the Buddha's name, and we're offering to him. We're offering him candles and incense and all of these other things that we're conjuring. And then the next thing to do is to recognize he's here, and we can just see how much more developed he is than us. The mind of the Buddha is unfathomable to us, and here he is in front of us. And so all we can do is just bow down. It's a recognition of the fact that there is something much more than us. There is a potential to human consciousness embodied in beings that is more than us. And for us to be able to bow down means that we can take it seriously. We can recognize that there is a distance there. Traditionally, one would prostrate oneself and lie completely flat on the floor, a gesture of complete receptivity to the Buddha. Then following on from that, one doesn't want to just recognize that there's a distance. One wants to move, one wants to bridge that gap. So at that point, it's almost like we've welcomed the Buddha and then we enter into a kind of dialogue with. We're sort of saying things, we're sort of developing these sort of spiritual moods through entering little bits of conversation, if you like. So we're saying that we want to commit to moving towards the ideal that he represents, and we do that with the traditional Pali formula of the refuges and precepts. So we're saying that we go for refuge, we take as our ideal and as our refuge in the kind of winds of sort of life that blow us around, the ideal of the Buddha, his teaching, and the sangha of his highly developed disciples that we want to partake in. So we then speak this traditional formula that's saying that we want to go for refuge to that, and then we want to actually practice. We want to avoid the sort of unskillful actions that you were talking about that might kind of keep us distant from that, and then we evoke in our own language the things that we're trying to do, the vision of how we want to live our life that will bridge that gap. So we're saying we want to do this. We're evoking this ideal of how we want to practice here in front of the Buddha, and then as we do that, the first thing that we naturally notice when we evoke an ideal, we say, this is what I want to do, is we notice all the ways in which we're not. We feel all the ways in which we're not meeting that, and we feel the sting of that. We feel the sting of the ways that we act unskillfully, the ways that we break the kind of precepts that we've just said we want to practice. And it's as though, especially in the presence of the Buddha, we can't keep that a secret. It sort of weighs on us too heavily. So we want to kind of lighten the load by taking those things that we're not proud of out of the sort of secrecy and darkness, and just say, look, this is what I can be like. This is what I've done. I'm just putting that out there. When we do that, I remember being on a retreat when I was training to be ordained, in which I spent a whole evening telling people about my life from this perspective, from an ethical perspective, and I mentioned loads of things I'd never told anyone before, which was like really, I'd done things in my life that I sort of thought, I'll never tell anyone about that. And I felt like, we've got to do that now, and I actually wanted to, and it was such a relief. I felt like about a foot taller walking around in the ritual that evening. I just felt like there'd been a big sort of load off. So we get the opportunity to do that, to confess our unskillfulness. And as we do that, as we sort of take that load off, there's a lightness that means that we can just, because we're not sort of stifled by a kind of secretive guilt or whatever, we're able to much more easily recognise value, not just in the Buddha, but in all these situations and all these people around us who are, well, like living their life for the benefit of others. And people do that in all sorts of different ways. There's a whole spectrum of how intensely we can do that, but lots of us in this room, I know, are doing that in different ways. So we can see that and we think, fantastic, and we can celebrate it rather than feel kind of, I don't know, guilty about not doing more of it ourselves or whatever. We can just celebrate those values and want to join in. And now we're at the point where we can actually hear the Dharma. Now we're so sort of elevated in the presence of the Buddha that we want him to help us make a breakthrough. We want him to help us get to this point where we can see things more as they really are, and with that have the motivating force of the bodhicitta operate in our life. So we ask him to teach us. So it's not just we can't just sort of expect him to walk through the door and start teaching us the Dharma, although that's not to say that he wouldn't be open to that, wouldn't want to, but we've created the conditions in our own mind and in the environment around us to say, please, teach. And it's much, much easier to teach when people want that. It's much easier to teach on Dharma night than it would be to stand on the street corner and try and tell people about the Dharma. There's a sort of by coming here, you're saying we want to hear the Dharma, so it's much easier to communicate. So we're saying that ritually to the Buddha, and then we hear the Buddha's words. And at this point, we always hear some Dharma teaching. In this instance, the main way we do that is we'll hear the Heart Sutra, the sort of heart of the perfection of wisdom teachings of the Mahayana, the sort of this profound and sort of baffling statement of how things really are, but we just let sort of sink in. We just sort of hear that. And in this drama, this is the point at which the bodhicitta does arise. So in this drama, we do become bodhisattvas. And what's the first thing we do when the bodhicitta arises? It isn't to say, great, I've got my bodhicitta badge, I'm off, thanks, I'm sort of fine now. Of course, what comes with that is the motivation to benefit all beings. So at that moment, as a newly fledged bodhisattva, we're saying, I want to, any merit that I've got from from my life, from this practice, from everything I'm doing, let that be any benefit, let that be for others, let that spill over and over and over, and let my life be for that. So we sort of speak the words of a bodhisattva at this point. And in a way, that's sort of that's the completion of the drama. But then there are some final mantras which we do in call and response, and in a way they're just sort of like the blessings of all these different Buddhas and Bodhisattva figures. It's as though all these great practitioners before us who've achieved the goal. They're sort of looking down on us, recognising the achievement that we've just made and kind of blessing us with that. So by chanting their mantras, it's as though that's sort of it's the sort of icing on the cake, if you like. And the last of those mantras is the word shanti, which means peace. So that's the sort of the culmination of the whole practice is a state of stillness and peace, and then we sit in that, and then I'll ring a bell and leave the room, and then that will be that's the end of the puja. So do you see what I'm getting at? There's a kind of we're sort of engaging in that spirit. We're like actors in a rehearsal room in our tracksuit bottoms, trying to sort of experiment with what would it be like to practice this wholeheartedly. And so by putting ourselves into that, by hearing ourselves saying these words and listening to that, trying to say them in a way that we mean them, simply, and then hearing ourselves say that. Let's just see, we'll see what effect that has. Okay, so let's get, I'll turn the lights down and we can sit comfortably and quietly for a moment. And then at the end? Or?
No, there's a lot of gaps.
Well, why don't what we could do? Yeah, why don't we just if you're sat at the back, just move forward and take some of these places here so that we're all a bit more together. And you could pull the chairs forward a little bit just so that we're a little bit closer. And, yeah, let's get rid of a few things. You could sit in meditation for just a moment. Preparing the mind like an actor preparing to go on stage, preparing to meet the Buddha. Sevenfold puja. Worship. With Mandarava, blue lotus and jasmine.
With Mandarava, blue lotus and jasmine.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
I pay honour to the princes of the sages.
I pay honour to the princes of the sages.
So worthy of veneration.
So worthy of veneration.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
Sweet and penetrating.
Sweet and penetrating.
I make them offerings of food, hard and soft.
I make them offerings of food, hard and soft.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
Festooned with golden lotus.
Festooned with golden lotus.
On the paving sprinkled with perfume.
On the paving sprinkled with perfume.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers.
Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha.
Swaha.
Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakya Muni 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 Swaha. Salutation. As many atoms as there are, in the 1,000 million worlds, so many times I make reverent salutation. To all the Buddhas of the three eras. To the Sthiramanas. And to the excellent community. I pay homage to all the shrines. And places in which the Bodhisattvas have been. I make profound obeisance to the teachers. And those to whom respectful salutation is due. Going for refuge. This very day. I go for my refuge. To the powerful protectors. Whose purpose is to guard the universe. The mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere. Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge. In the Dharma they have ascertained. Which is the abode of security. Against the rounds of rebirth. Likewise in the host of bodhisattvas. I take my refuge. Namo tassa. Bhagavato arahato. Samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa. Bhagavato arahato. Samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa. Bhagavato arahato. Samma Sambuddhassa.
Samma Sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Ditiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Ditiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Ditiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Ditiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Ditiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Ditiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Panatipata.
Panatipata.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadang.
Sikkhapadang.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Adinadana.
Adinadana.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadang.
Sikkhapadang.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Kamesu.
Kamesu.
Michachara.
Michachara.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadang.
Sikkhapadang.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Musavada.
Musavada.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadang.
Sikkhapadang.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Sthiramarya.
Sthiramarya.
Majja.
Majja.
Hammadatana.
Hammadatana.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadang.
Sikkhapadang.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Sadhu.
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 With deeds of loving kindness,
With deeds of loving kindness,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With open-handed generosity,
With open-handed generosity,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With stillness, simplicity, and contentment,
With stillness, simplicity, and contentment,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With truthful communication,
With truthful communication,
I purify my speech.
I purify my speech.
With mindfulness clear and radiant,
With mindfulness clear and radiant,
I purify my mind.
I purify my mind.
Confession of faults. The evil that I have heaped up
The evil that I have heaped up
through my ignorance and foolishness,
through my ignorance and foolishness,
evil in the world of everyday experience,
evil in the world of everyday experience,
as well as evil in understanding and intelligence.
as well as evil in understanding and intelligence.
All that I acknowledge to the protectors,
All that I acknowledge to the protectors,
standing before them,
standing before them,
with hands raised in reverence,
with hands raised in reverence,
and terrified of suffering.
and terrified of suffering.
I pay salutations again and again.
I pay salutations again and again.
May the leaders receive this kindly.
May the leaders receive this kindly,
just as it is with its many faults.
just as it is with its many faults.
What is not good, O protectors?
What is not good, O protectors,
I shall not do again.
I shall not do again.
Rejoicing in merit. I rejoice with delight
I rejoice with delight
in the good done by all beings,
in the good done by all beings,
through which they obtain rest,
through which they obtain rest,
with the end of suffering.
with the end of suffering.
May those who have suffered be happy.
May those who have suffered be happy.
I rejoice in the release of beings
I rejoice in the release of beings
from the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
from the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
I rejoice in the nature of the Bodhisattva
I rejoice in the nature of the Bodhisattva
and the Buddha,
and the Buddha,
who are protectors.
who are protectors.
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment
and the teaching,
and the teachings,
those oceans that bring happiness to all beings,
those oceans that bring happiness to all beings,
and are the abode of welfare of all beings.
and are the abode of welfare for all beings.
Entreaty and supplication. Saluting them with folded hands.
Saluting them with folded hands.
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma
for those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
for those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
With hands folded in reverence,
With hands folded in reverence,
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter nirvana.
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter nirvana.
May they remain here for endless ages,
May they remain here for endless ages,
so that life in this world does not grow dark.
so that life in this world does not grow dark.
The Heart Sutra. The Bodhisattva of compassion, when he meditated deeply, saw the emptiness of all 5 skandhas and sundered the bonds that caused him suffering. Here then, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is only emptiness, emptiness only form. Feeling, thought and choice, consciousness itself, are the same as this. All things are by nature void. They are not born or destroyed, nor are they stained or pure, nor do they wax or wane. So, in emptiness, no form, no feeling, thought or choice, nor is there consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No colour, sound, smell, taste, touch, or what the mind takes hold of, nor even act of sensing. No ignorance or end of it, nor all that comes of ignorance. No withering, no death, no end of them. Nor is there pain or cause of pain, or cease in pain, or noble path to lead from pain. Not even wisdom to attain. Attainment too is emptiness. So know that the Bodhisattva, holding to nothing whatever, but dwelling in prajna wisdom, is freed of delusive hindrance, rid of the fear bred by it, and reaches clearest nirvana. All Buddhas of past and present, Buddhas of future time, using this prajna wisdom, come to full and perfect vision. Hear then the great Dharani, the radiant, peerless mantra, the prajna paramita, whose words allay all pain. Hear and believe its truth. Gate gate paragate, parasamgate bodhisvaha. Gate gate paragate, parasamgate bodhisvaha. Gate gate paragate, parasamgate bodhisvaha. Transference of merit and self-surrender. May the merit gained in my acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. My personality throughout my existences. My possessions. And my merit in all three ways. I give up without regard to myself. For the benefit of all beings. Just as the earth and other elements are serviceable in many ways to the infinite number of beings inhabiting limitless space. So may I become that which maintains all beings, situated throughout space. So long as all have not attained to peace. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Marapachanadhi. Om Marapachanadhi. Om Marapachanadhi. Om Marapachanadhi. Om Marapachanadhi. Om Vajrapani Hum. 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 Om Tare. Om Tare. Tutare. Tutare. Ture. Ture. Swaha. Swaha. Om Tare. Om Tare. Tutare. Tutare. Ture. Ture. Swaha. Swaha. Om Tare. Om Tare. Hari.
Om Amideva Hari.
Om Amideva Hari.
Om Amideva Hari.
Om Muni Muni.
Om Muni Muni.
Maha Muni.
Maha Muni.
Shakya Muni.
Shakya Muni.
Svaha.
Swaha.
Om Muni Muni.
Om Muni Muni.
Maha Muni.
Maha Muni.
Shakya Muni.
Shakya Muni.
Svaha.
Swaha.
Om Muni Muni.
Om Muni Muni.
Maha Muni.
Maha Muni.
Shakya Muni.
Shakya Muni.
Svaha.
Swaha.
Om Ahum.
Om Ahum.
Vajraguru Padma.
Vajraguru Padma.
Siddhi Hum.
Siddhi Hum.
Om Ahum.
Om Ahum.
Vajraguru Padma.
Vajraguru Padma.
Siddhi Hum.
Siddhi Hum.
Om Ahum.
Om Ahum.
Vajraguru Padma.
Vajraguru Padma.
Siddhi Hum.
Siddhi Hum.
Gate Gate.
Gate Gate.
Paragate.
Paragate.
Parasamgate.
Parasamgate.
Bodhisvaha.
Bodhisvaha.
Gate Gate.
Gate Gate.
Paragate.
Paragate.
Parasamgate.
Parasamgate.
Bodhisvaha.
Bodhisvaha.
Gate Gate.
Gate Gate.
Paragate.
Paragate.
Parasamgate.
Parasamgate.
Bodhisvaha.
Bodhisvaha.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Shanti.
Shanti.